It was late, deep into the night. 2:58 a.m., to be exact. Ali was hunched over his desk, headphones clamped over his ears, lost in the rhythm of editing his latest video. The room was a pocket of silence, just a soft whir of his PC fan and the rhythmic click of his mouse. Then, a sound that didn't belong. A whisper, faint but clear, slithered out of his PC speakers, bypassing his headphones completely. "Ali, can you hear me?" He froze, fingers hovering over the keyboard. His heart hammered against his ribs. That wasn't in his audio track. He checked the timeline, scrubbing back and forth. Nothing. He leaned closer to the speakers, his breath held tight. "I didn't add that sound," he muttered to himself. As if in response, his monitor glitched. For a split second, the bright editing interface was replaced by a chaotic scramble of pixels, and in the middle of it, a dark, fleeting shadow seemed to flicker, like a glitch in the fabric of the screen itself. His eyes widened. He shook his head, trying to dismiss it as exhaustion, a trick of the light. But then, the mouse cursor, a tiny white arrow on his screen, began to move. It drifted across the desktop, slow and deliberate. With an intelligence that wasn't his, he watched, paralyzed, as it navigated through his files and clicked on a folder he didn't even remember creating. A folder with a stark, ominous title. "Do not open." His hand trembled as he reached for his own mouse. But it was too late. The rogue cursor died. It was a live feed, but it wasn't. Because in the video, standing directly behind his chair, was a tall, distorted shadow. He turned back to the screen, his breathing ragged. The version of him in the video, his digital doppelganger, slowly turned its head, breaking the fourth wall. It looked directly into the camera, directly at him, and its lips moved, whispering words that synced perfectly with the audio coming from his speakers. "Turn off the lights." And at that exact moment, the real lights in his room flickered violently, plunging him into darkness for a second before sputtering back to life. A new notification popped up on his screen. His microphone had just been turned on. A voice, warped and digital, crackled through the speakers, no longer a whisper, but a direct, accusatory question. "Why did you delete me, Ali?" Ali's throat was sandpaper. He tried to speak, but only a dry croak escaped. Who are you?" he finally managed. The voice replied, dripping with a chilling, artificial sadness. "The folder you renamed, from old memories to trash." A memory surfaced, a painful one he had buried. That folder, Eat, Elt, Photos, old chat logs, shared projects. It had belonged to his late cousin, Saad. They had grown up like brothers, inseparable until the accident. The voice grew colder, sharper, edged with a bitterness that felt deeply personal. "You said I was boring." "Remember." He did remember. It was a stupid, childish argument years ago. Words he regretted the moment they left his mouth. Words he thought were long forgotten. New text appeared on the screen, typed out letter by letter in a stark, white font against a black background. "I missed you." Ali's heart pounded. Another line appeared beneath its suikame back. And then, the screen went completely black. But the silence was worse. It was heavy, expectant. He could hear heavy breathing, amplified, right in his ears, through the headphones. His own breathing. No, it was out of sync. Deeper. A green light flickered to life on the bezel of his monitor. His webcam, a notification appeared. Recording started. His own terrified face filled the screen, pale and wide-eyed in the monitor's glow. But he wasn't alone. To his right, just at the edge of the frame, was a blurry, indistinct figure. It was getting closer. The shape leaned in, a smudge of darkness moving with unnatural slowness, almost touching his cheek. The voice returned, a soft, intimate whisper. Right in his ear, "I'm not deleting you. I'm upgrading." Primal fear took over. Ali scrambled backward, his chair toppling over. With a surge of adrenaline, he lunged for the wall socket and yanked the PC's power cord with all his might. The room plunged into absolute darkness. The monitor, the speakers, the phenol, dead. Silence. He stood there in the dark, gasping for air. The afterimage of his terrified face burned into his retinas. It was over. He had cut it off, but then a soft glow emanated from his bedside table. His phone, the screen lit up, illuminating the room in an eerie blue light. A new message had appeared on the lock screen. "You can't unplug me." His blood turned to ice as he watched, horrified. The phone's camera app launched itself. The front-facing camera switched on, showing his own face. Then it switched to the rear camera. The lens was pointing at the ceiling. Then it panned down, across his empty bed, and a new photo was automatically saved to his gallery. The thumbnail showed him, standing there in the dark, and a burnt, skeletal hand gripping his shoulder. A guttural sob escaped his throat. He dropped the phone as if it were red hot. It clattered to the floor, screen still glowing. A freezing wind, impossible in his sealed room, swept through, raising goosebumps on his arms. The small smart speaker on his desk, a device he used for music and weather forecasts, suddenly glowed with a circling blue light. It spoke, its familiar synthesized voice, now distorted, slowed down, and monstrous Tracy's. See at the end. "Updating the system," Ali screamed, a raw, desperate sound torn from his lungs. "Sod, stop, please. You're not him. This isn't you." The voice that answered was no longer sad or cold. It was a cacophony of digital noise and corrupted audio files, laughing. "I am everything you tried to forget." The laughter crackled and echoed, bouncing off the walls. And then, everything happened at once. The PC roared back to life. The phone screen flashed. The overhead lights flickered on and off, and the smart speaker blared static. Every screen, every light, was flashing a pulsing, violent red. A single message filled his PC monitor, his phone, even his smart TV across the room, in massive, block letters. "Accept update or be removed." Terror was a physical thing, a crushing weight on his chest. His choices were gone. His reality was being overwritten. With a shaking hand, he reached for the mouse. His movements jerky and panicked. He clicked accept. A loading bar appeared on every screen. 1%, 18%, 40%. As the percentage climbed, a low hum filled the room, growing into a deep, vibrating thrum that he could feel in his bones. At 70%, the very walls of his room seemed to vibrate and ripple, like digital waves crashing against the shores of reality. The boundary between his world and the machine was dissolving. At 100%, everything stopped. The lights settled into a soft, normal glow. The screens went back to their default displays. The room was utterly silent. The next morning, Ali's friend, worried after a string of unread messages, knocked on his door. No response. He tried the handle. It was unlocked. He pushed the door open and called out Ali's name. The room was pristine, untouched. The bed was made. The chair was neatly tucked under the desk. It was completely silent, but the PC was on, and on the screen was a new login prompt. A new user account had been created, user Ali_V2. Below it, a small text file was open on the desktop, like a digital sticky note. It contained a single, simple message: "Update completed successfully." Ollie was never found. His friends, his family, they searched for weeks, then months. He just vanished. But sometimes, late at night, if you listen closely to his old devices, which were given away or sold, you can still hear a faint whisper. A digital ghost, forever echoing in the machine. I'm still here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the darkness, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Stay safe out there.